Hey there, you looking kinda cute. Don't forget to subscribe and check out my other socials for more. Enjoy. Good morning, Nicky, a familiar voice called from behind him. Nick spun around to see his wife, Claudia, standing in the doorway with a smile that was equal parts mischievous and affectionate.
Claudia, what's going on?
Nick's voice came out higher than usual, adding to his disorientation. Claudia crossed the room, her heels clicking on the hardwood floor. She placed her hands on Nick's shoulders, turning him back to face the mirror.
I'm helping you fulfill your dreams, darling. You've always wondered what it would be like to be a girl, haven't you? Well, today you get to find out.
Nick's mind reeled as he took in the sight of himself in a silky nightgown, the fabric clinging to curves that hadn't been there when he went to sleep.
But how? I don't understand.
Don't worry about the details, Claudia said, running her fingers through Nick's new hair. Just enjoy the experience. I've planned a whole day of feminine activities for us. Before Nick could protest, Claudia was guiding him to the vanity, sitting him down in front of an array of cosmetics. First things first, let's get you looking fabulous. Nick watched in a daze as Claudia expertly applied foundation, concealer, and powder to his face. The familiar features began to transform under her skilled hands, becoming softer, more delicate. Close your eyes, Claudia instructed, and Nick complied, feeling the gentle sweep of brushes across his eyelids. You're going to love this smoky eye look. When Nick opened his eyes, he gasped. The person in the mirror was a stranger, a beautiful woman with sultry eyes and full, glossy lips. Is that me? Claudia beamed. It certainly is, Nicky. Now, let's get you dressed for the day. She led Nick to the closet, which had been transformed overnight. Gone were his suits and casual wear, replaced by an array of dresses, skirts, and blouses in various styles and colors. Claudia selected a floral sundress and held it up for Nick's inspection.
This will be perfect for our first stop,
she said, helping Nick into the dress. The fabric felt foreign against his skin, light and breezy. Claudia zipped him up and stepped back to admire the effect. Oh, Nicky, you look absolutely darling. Nick turned to look in the full-length mirror, his breath catching in his throat. The dress hugged his body, the hem swishing around his knees. Claudia handed him a pair of strappy sandals, which he slipped on with shaky hands. Ready for our day out? Claudia asked, grabbing her purse. Nick nodded, not trusting his voice. He followed Claudia out of the house, hyper-aware of the way the dress moved with each step, the unfamiliar sway of his hips. Their first stop was a high-end hair salon. As they entered, the receptionist greeted them warmly. Welcome, ladies! Do you have an appointment? Yes, for Nicky, Claudia replied smoothly. Nick felt a flutter of panic in his chest, but managed to smile as he was led to a styling chair. The stylist, a vivacious woman named Tanya, draped a cape around Nick's shoulders. So, what are we doing today, Nicky? Before Nick could respond, Claudia stepped in. We're thinking a shampoo, trim, and some highlights. Maybe even a manicure if we have time? Tanya nodded enthusiastically. Sounds fabulous! Let's start with that shampoo, shall we? Nick leaned back into the basin, closing his eyes as warm water cascaded over his scalp. The sensation was oddly soothing, and he found himself relaxing into the experience. Tanya's fingers massaged his scalp, working the fragrant shampoo into a lather. As Tanya worked, she chatted amiably about the latest celebrity gossip and fashion trends. Nick found himself nodding along, surprised at how easily he was slipping into the role of Nicky. After the rinse, Tanya led Nick back to the styling chair. Now, let's talk about those highlights. I'm thinking some honey blonde streaks to brighten up your natural color. What do you think? Nick glanced at Claudia, who nodded encouragingly. That sounds nice, he said, his voice still unfamiliar to his ears. For the next hour, Nick watched as Tanya expertly transformed his hair. She wove foils through sections of his locks, applied color, and then trimmed the ends to create a flattering shape around his face. As she worked, Nick found himself becoming more and more invested in the process, even offering opinions on the style. "And now for the big reveal," Tanya announced, spinning the chair to face the mirror. Nick's jaw dropped. The woman staring back at him was stunning. The highlights caught the light, giving his hair dimension and movement. The cut framed his face perfectly, accentuating his cheekbones and drawing attention to his eyes. "Oh, Nicky, it's gorgeous!" Claudia exclaimed, clapping her hands in delight. Nick couldn't help but smile.
It really is,
he admitted, running his fingers through the silky strands. "Now, how about that manicure?" Tanya asked, leading Nick to the nail station. As Nick settled into the chair, a nail technician approached with a tray of polish colors.
"What shade were you thinking, hun?"
Nick hesitated, overwhelmed by the choices. Claudia leaned in, pointing to a soft pink. "How about this one? It'll go perfectly with your dress." Nick nodded, and the technician got to work, filing his nails into neat ovals before applying the polish. The process was oddly relaxing, and Nick found himself admiring the way the color looked against his skin. As they left the salon, Nick felt a newfound confidence in his step. The makeover had transformed him not just physically, but mentally as well. He was starting to understand the appeal of this feminine world Claudia had introduced him to. Their next stop was a makeup counter at a high-end department store. The beautician, a petite woman with impeccable winged eyeliner, greeted them warmly.
"Welcome, ladies. What can I help you with today?"
Claudia smiled. "My friend Nikki here is looking for a complete makeover. We want to try some new looks." The beautician, whose name tag read Amber, clapped her hands excitedly. "Wonderful! Let's start with your base. What's your skincare routine like, Nikki?" Nick blinked, caught off guard.
I wash my face?"
Amber laughed good-naturedly. "Don't worry, we'll get you set up with a proper regimen. For now, let's focus on finding the perfect foundation match." For the next hour, Nick sat patiently as Amber worked her magic. She shaped his eyebrows, applied various creams and powders, and demonstrated different eye makeup techniques. Nick found himself fascinated by the process, asking questions and even suggesting colors he wanted to try. "And for the finishing touch," Amber said, holding up a tube of lipstick, "a classic red lip. It'll really make your eyes pop." As Nick pursed his lips in the mirror, admiring the bold color, he caught Claudia's proud smile in the reflection. He was surprised to realize that he was enjoying himself, reveling in the transformation. "Oh, one last thing," Claudia said as they were about to leave. "Nikki needs her ears pierced." Nick's eyes widened. "Really?" Claudia nodded. "It'll complete the look. Plus, I've got the perfect pair of earrings picked out for you." Before Nick could protest, they were at the piercing station. The process was quick, if a bit uncomfortable, and soon Nick was admiring the delicate studs in his newly pierced ears. As they left the store, bags full of new makeup and skincare products in hand, Nick felt a mix of excitement and trepidation. The day had been a whirlwind of new experiences, each one pushing him further into the role of Nicky. They were walking towards the car when a familiar voice called out, "Claudia, is that you?" Nick turned to see Mike, one of Claudia's clients, approaching with a friendly wave. He felt a moment of panic, wondering if Mike would recognize him. "Mike, what a pleasant surprise," Claudia said, air-kissing his cheeks. "Have you met my friend Nikki?" Mike turned to Nick, his eyes appreciative.
"I don't believe I've had the pleasure." "It's nice to meet you, Nikki."
Nick mumbled a greeting, trying to pitch his voice higher. To his relief, Mike didn't seem to notice anything amiss. "We were just heading home," Claudia said. "But perhaps we could grab a quick drink? It's been ages since we caught up properly." Mike's face lit up. "That sounds great! There's a new wine bar just around the corner." Claudia turned to Nick. "What do you think, Nicky? Up for a glass of wine?" Nick hesitated, but curiosity won out. He nodded, wondering how he would navigate this new social situation. The wine bar was cozy and intimate, with low lighting and soft jazz playing in the background. They settled into a booth, Mike sitting across from Nick and Claudia. As Mike and Claudia caught up on business matters, Nick sipped his wine, feeling more relaxed as the evening wore on. "So, Nicky," Mike said, turning his attention to Nick, "what do you do?" Nick froze for a moment before remembering the backstory Claudia had quickly whispered to him on the way to the bar. "I'm in marketing," he said, surprised at how easily the lie came. "Mostly digital campaigns." Mike nodded, looking impressed. "Fascinating field. Always changing, isn't it? I'd love to hear your thoughts on the latest social media trends." To Nick's surprise, he found himself engaged in a lively discussion about marketing strategies and brand management. It was surreal having this conversation while dressed as Nicky, but he was enjoying the intellectual stimulation. As the evening progressed, Nick noticed Mike's gaze lingering on him more frequently. There was an unmistakable interest in his eyes, and Nick felt a confusing mix of flattery and discomfort. "You know," Mike said, leaning in slightly, "I'm hosting a charity gala next month. It would be great if you both could attend. Especially you, Nicky. I'd love to continue our conversation." Nick glanced at Claudia, who was watching the interaction with barely concealed amusement. She nodded encouragingly. "That sounds lovely," Nick heard himself say, his voice soft and feminine. "I'd be delighted to attend." As they said their goodbyes and left the wine bar, Nick's head was spinning. The day had been a series of surprises, each one pushing him further into the persona of Nicky. He wasn't sure how to feel about Mike's obvious interest or the ease with which he had slipped into this new role. Back at home, Claudia led Nick to the bedroom with a mischievous glint in her eye. "I've got one more surprise for you, Nicky," she said, opening the closet door. Nick's eyes widened as Claudia pulled out a cheerleader's uniform, complete with pom-poms. The red and white outfit looked impossibly small and revealing. "What do you think?" Claudia asked, holding it up against Nick's body. "I thought we could have a little fun with this." Nick stared at the uniform, a mix of emotions swirling through him. Part of him was horrified at the thought of wearing something so feminine and revealing. But another part, a part that had been growing stronger throughout the day, was intrigued, curious to see how far this transformation could go. I don't know," Nick said, his voice wavering. "Isn't it a bit much?" Claudia smiled softly, running her hand down Nick's arm. "It's just us here, Nicky. No one else has to know. Don't you want to see what it feels like to fully embrace this side of yourself?" Nick hesitated, then slowly nodded. "Okay," he whispered. "I'll try it on." Claudia helped Nick change into the cheerleader uniform, adjusting the pleated skirt and smoothing out the top. When Nick turned to look in the mirror, he gasped. The person staring back at him was unrecognizable, a perky, feminine cheerleader with long legs and a flirty smile. "Oh, Nicky," Claudia breathed. "You look amazing. How do you feel?" Nick twirled experimentally, watching the skirt flare out. "I feel different, liberated almost." He picked up the pom-poms, giving them a little shake. "Is this really me?" Claudia wrapped her arms around Nick from behind, resting her chin on his shoulder. "It can be, if you want it to be. This is all about exploring different sides of yourself, Nicky. There's no right or wrong way to do it." As they stood there, looking at their reflection in the mirror, Nick felt a sense of peace wash over him. The day had been overwhelming, filled with new experiences and emotions. But standing here in Claudia's arms, he felt safe, accepted. "Thank you," Nick said softly, turning to face Claudia. "For all of this. For helping me explore this side of myself." Claudia cupped Nick's face in her hands, her eyes shining with love and pride. "You're welcome, my love. This is just the beginning. There's so much more for us to explore together." The next morning, Nick woke up feeling different. The events of the previous day came flooding back, and he sat up, half expecting to see himself back in his male form. But as he looked down, he saw the curves of Nicky's body, the long hair spilling over his shoulders. Claudia stirred beside him, opening her eyes with a sleepy smile. "Good morning, Nicky. How are you feeling?" Nick took a moment to assess his emotions. Surprisingly, good, he admitted. A little overwhelmed, but excited too. What's the plan for today? Claudia sat up, her eyes sparkling with enthusiasm. Well, I thought we could start with a little shopping trip. Your wardrobe could use some expansion, don't you think? Nick nodded, feeling a flutter of anticipation in his stomach. That sounds nice. But what about work? Won't people notice I'm missing? Claudia waved her hand dismissively. Don't worry about that. I've taken care of everything. You've got a week off for a personal development retreat. We've got all the time in the world to explore this new you. They got ready for the day, Nick becoming more comfortable with the routine of applying makeup and choosing an outfit. He opted for a flowy blouse and skinny jeans paired with ankle boots that gave him a little extra height. As they drove to the mall, Nick found himself people-watching, paying attention to how women carried themselves, the way they walked and gestured. He was determined to blend in, to fully inhabit the role of Nikki. Their first stop was a trendy boutique filled with colorful dresses and accessories. The sales assistant, a bubbly young woman named Mia, approached them with a warm smile. Welcome, ladies. Can I help you find anything specific today? Claudia took charge, explaining that they were looking for a complete wardrobe overhaul for Nikki. Mia's eyes lit up at the challenge, and soon Nick found himself in a changing room surrounded by a dizzying array of clothes. As he tried on outfit after outfit, Nick was surprised by how much he was enjoying himself. He loved the way the fabrics felt against his skin, the way certain cuts accentuated his new curves. He even found himself giggling with Claudia and Mia as they discussed which colors suited him best. "Oh, Nikki, you have to try this on," Claudia exclaimed, holding up a slinky black cocktail dress. "It would be perfect for the charity gala." Nick hesitated, remembering Mike's invitation from the night before. "Are we really going to that? What if someone recognizes me?" Claudia squeezed his hand reassuringly. "No one will recognize you, trust me, and it'll be a great opportunity for you to fully experience life as Nikki. Come on, just try it on." Reluctantly, Nick slipped into the dress. When he emerged from the changing room, both Claudia and Mia gasped. "Oh my God, you look stunning," Mia gushed. "That dress was made for you." Nick turned to look in the mirror and felt his breath catch in his throat. The dress hugged every curve, the neckline plunging just enough to hint at cleavage. He looked sophisticated. For a moment, he forgot he was looking at himself. "We'll take it," Claudia said decisively, "along with everything else we've picked out." As they left the boutique, arms laden with shopping bags, Nick felt a mix of excitement and nervousness. The charity gala suddenly felt very real, and he wondered how he would handle such a public event as Nikki. Their next stop was an undergarment store. "Now, Nikki," Claudia said, her voice low, "every woman needs a good foundation. Let's get you properly fitted." The next hour was a blur of measuring tapes, different styles of bras, and more types of underwear than Nick had ever known existed. By the end, he had a collection that made him feel both vulnerable and powerful. As they were leaving the store, Nick caught sight of a corset in the window display. It was a deep burgundy color with intricate lace detailing. Without really thinking about it, he pointed it out to Claudia. "Oh, that's gorgeous," Claudia said, her eyes lighting up. "Do you want to try it on?" Nick hesitated, then nodded. I think I do." Back in the changing room, Claudia helped Nick into the corset, lacing it up tightly. As Nick looked at himself in the mirror, he felt a strange sense of completeness. The corset accentuated his waist, pushing up his chest to create the illusion of cleavage. He looked undeniably feminine, and for the first time since this transformation began, he felt truly beautiful. "What do you think?" Claudia asked softly, her hands on Nick's waist. Nick turned to her, his eyes shining. "I love it. Can we get it?" Claudia smiled, pressing a kiss to Nick's cheek. "Of course we can, darling. Anything for my Nikki." As they left the mall, both of them laden down with shopping bags, Nick felt a sense of excitement building. This experience, which had started out so strange and overwhelming, was becoming something he looked forward to. He was eager to see what other aspects of femininity he could explore, what other sides of himself he could discover. "So," Claudia said as they drove home,
"What shall we do next? We could practice walking in heels or maybe work on your voice?"
Nick thought for a moment, then smiled.
"Actually, I was thinking, could you teach me how to do my own makeup? I want to be able to create different looks on my own."
Claudia beamed, clearly thrilled by Nick's enthusiasm.
"Of course! We'll make a proper beauty guru out of you yet."
As they pulled into their driveway, Nick felt a surge of affection for Claudia. She had opened up this whole new world to him, supporting him every step of the way. Whatever happened next, he knew they would face it together. Inside, as they unpacked their purchases, Nick picked up the corset, running his fingers over the delicate lace. "Claudia?" he said softly. "Yes, darling." Nick took a deep breath.
"Thank you for all of this, for helping me discover this side of myself. I think I'm starting to understand why you wanted me to experience this."
Claudia wrapped her arms around Nick, pulling him close.
"I'm so proud of you, Nikki. You've embraced this with such openness and courage. I love you, all of you, no matter what form you take."
Thanks for watching. Don't forget to check out my other socials if you want more wonderful content, early access, behind the scenes, and more. All links down below.